So far in this series, I've explained to you that every soul is seeking only perfect happiness. And this means that every soul is an eternal devotee of God. Because God, as described in the Vedas, is perfect happiness. So desiring God and desiring happiness is the very same thing. God is divine happiness, true happiness, of an unlimited amount and lasting forever. Any soul can attain that happiness, and many, many souls have, but not through their own effort. God is only attainable through His grace. We saw that it is impossible to know God through one's own effort, through the power of one's own intellect. But any soul who surrenders to God can receive God's grace and know God, experience God. Surrendering to God is not a condition or a cost of receiving His grace. It's simply the way of receiving His grace. He's giving it for free to anyone, but you have to surrender your heart to Him, because it's in the heart that you receive grace. It's very simple. In order to receive that grace, we have to surrender. In order to surrender, we need faith in God, and we need to desire God. In order to increase our faith in God, we cleared up a few confusions along the way, like if God is giving life to our soul, is He also responsible for our actions? I explained that no. He gives life to us, but then we have free will. We perform the actions. He keeps track and gives us the consequences. We also need to understand why our mind is so attracted to the world and why it should desire God instead. So we have to spend a little bit of time talking in depth about the nature of this world. If our mind were free from any attachment, meaning it was neither attached in the world nor in God, then we would just have to hear this sentence one time: true happiness is in God. And our mind would immediately become surrendered to God, and we'd get divine bliss instantly. But because the mind is already attached in the world, so it can't just instantly be surrendered to God. It's a gradual process that happens based on our understanding of the nature of the world versus the nature of God. So we've talked a little bit about the nature of God. Now it's time to discuss the nature of the world. The first thing that comes up is an ages-old debate between Bhautikvad and Adhyatmavad. Bhautikvad means materialism. Nowadays, in its modern sense, you would say those who believe that all we need is science or material progress. And Adhyatmavad, on the other hand, they say, those who believe in Adhyatmavad means like spiritualism, you could say, those who believe in spiritual goals. Some of them say, no, we don't need material progress, we don't need science, we only need devotion to God. So, when you have these two opposing views, and nowadays in the world, science is the strongest, you can say. People have the most faith in science now than they've ever had. So they have there's almost like a fear, you could say, that can you believe in both? If I believe in God, does it mean I'm being unscientific? People think the two are mutually exclusive, that if I am scientifically minded, then how can I believe in God? And if someone believes in God, how can they believe in science? So you have these two opposing views, which creates another barrier for people to surrender to God, because they think, well, I live in this material world. Science is so prominent in the world nowadays. How can I not believe in science? And if I believe in science, how can I follow the path to God? Jagadguru Shree Kripaluji Maharaj has reconciled these two views. So I'm going to share this with you tonight, but we'll start by looking at the extreme views on both sides and understanding how they're wrong. For example, on the material side, those who follow this Bhautikvad, they say that we don't need God, scientific progress is enough. Now, we already discussed a few speeches ago about how it is unscientific to say that God does not exist just because you haven't seen God. We had a whole speech on this topic. I'll just review the basic points. If someone says, I need scientific proof of God's existence, you can't just tell me God exists and expect me to believe you. I need proof. I'm a scientist. I'm rational. So, we explain that there are certain things in this world that people believe in without having, we won't say scientific proof, we'll say without having direct proof, without having observed those things directly themselves. In science, not everything is based on direct observation. We often start with a theory about something we haven't seen before. And oftentimes, we're following in the footsteps of other great scientists who have gone before. And based on their research, based on what they tell us, we progress in our research. I gave you several examples like the existence of atoms and electrons, how so many people in the world believe that they exist without ever having seen them. And if you ask them, are you scientifically minded? Are you a logical person? They'll say yes. But you believe in something you've never seen? Well, there's great scientists telling me that they exist. So I explained to you that there are different kinds of proof. Direct proof that you get through your five senses, that's called pratyaksha pramana, direct experience. When you take someone else's word for it, it's called shabda pramana. We do this all the time in the world. I gave another example of your parents. How many of you have any scientific evidence that your parents are your parents? You believe them. Such an important thing. You don't, just because your dad says he's your dad, you believe him? Your mom says she's your mom, so you believe her? Yeah. Well, that's Shabda Praman. You're taking someone else's word for such an important thing. I also gave the example of all the countries of the world. We haven't seen even a small fraction of the countries in this world. Or we've only seen a small fraction of the countries in this world, yet we believe that there are so many other countries. Someone shows us a map of the world and says this country's here and this country's here. Okay, we believe it. It's written in a book. This is also Shabda Praman. So we believe many things in this material world which are beyond our experience, yet we choose to accept them based on someone else's word. Scientists do this, rational people do this, logical people do this. There's another type of proof where you use logic or deduction to understand that something must exist. It's called Anumana Praman. I gave an example like building a clay pot. You need several things to make the creation of that clay pot possible. You need material with which to form the pot. You need a potter. That potter has to have, obviously, the knowledge to be able to do it, and the desire to do it, and then make the effort to do it. Only then the pot will be created. So if you need all these things just for the creation of a simple clay pot, how could someone logically accept that this whole amazing, complex, systematically existing universe could have come into being without material? Okay, someone would say, well, the material is the material energy. Okay, fine. But what about the one who had the knowledge, the desire, and put the effort in to cause this to come into being? Do you believe that a clay pot could come into being without a maker? No, it's illogical. But do you believe the universe could come into being without a maker? It's the same logic. If it applies to a clay pot, it applies to the universe. So in this way, I explained to you that on one hand, it's illogical and irrational to say that God doesn't exist just because one hasn't seen God, when we're prepared to accept the existence of so many other material things without having seen them ourselves. And on the positive side, just like in this world, when you take someone's word for something, there is normally a way to get the direct proof. You might not be motivated to get it. You might not care to go down that road. But for instance, if you wanted to go and see all the other countries of the world and get a direct experience of their existence, you could. First comes the Shabda Praman, then comes the actual experience, Pratyaksh Praman. Same thing with electrons and atoms. You can see them. There's a way. You can perform the same experiments that were performed by those scientists whose word you're taking. So it's the same thing with God. We have a lot of Shabda Praman of God's existence. All the saints from the past and all the scriptures like the Vedas, Ramayana, Puranas, Gita that tell us of God's existence. So we accept God's existence based on this Shabda Praman, just like we accept the existence of atoms based on the say-so of the scientists. And just like we could repeat those same experiments of the scientists and see for ourselves if we were so motivated, and then we could get the direct Pratyaksh Praman of the existence of those atoms, in the same way we can also follow the path to God, which those saints and scriptures are telling us about. The saints say, I followed this path and I reached God. I saw God with my own eyes. You can also follow the same path. I'm describing the whole thing to you. So if this is not the scientific process, what is? You have to do the experiment first. Then if you don't get the predicted result, you know you were wrong. But without doing the experiment, just to say flat out, no, this tattva does not exist. No scientist would accept that kind of logic. Every scientist would say, no, you try the experiment, and if you don't get the same results I got, then you can tell me I'm wrong. You can't just sit there doing nothing and say, no, I don't believe you. Saints say the same thing. Just to not even walk the path to God, and from where you are sitting, just say, no, God doesn't exist. When the saints are seeing God with their own eyes, to them it seems childish. That I'm looking at God, I'm seeing Him, and here is this soul who God is sitting in his heart, giving him life, and only because God is sitting there giving him life does he have the power to say, I don't believe in God. And he refuses to walk the path to God to see if he can see God for himself, but he just wants to say, no, God doesn't exist. So it seems innocent and naive to the saints when souls say something like that. So as part of this Bhautik Vad, we see that it's not a rational way of thinking if someone just flat out dismisses the existence of God without having tried to attain God for themselves. Now, even if someone says, that's fine, God may exist, But as far as I'm concerned in this life, I have no need for God. God may exist, God may not exist. I have no concern with that debate. I'm just saying I have no need for God. All I need is material things. Is this a correct view? What if someone takes this view? So the obvious question is then, how will you find happiness? Are you satisfied with the happiness you've been getting in this world? Do you have enough or do you need more? Everyone will say, I need more. They don't know how much more. They don't know where exactly they have to find that happiness, but they want more. Then ask that rational, scientifically minded person, do you know of anybody in this world who got so much of the world that they didn't feel like they needed anything more? In other words, they became content, like whole and complete. They found perfect happiness in this world. Isn't that what you want? Perfect happiness, right? I don't know. I never really thought about it. All I thought about was I want more happiness than I have right now. But now that I think about it, yes, that seems logical. What is the extent of happiness I want? Perfect happiness. No sorrow, no disappointment, just only happiness all the time. Okay. Do you know anyone who's ever reached that state by enjoying the world? If the person is rational and honest with themselves, they can consider that point. No, I don't know anybody. I haven't. People in my family haven't. I see them always striving for more, 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 so it means they don't have enough. None of my friends have. So when you don't know anybody and you've never met anybody who has attained perfect happiness through worldly pleasures, then what is the basis for your faith that you are going to find perfect happiness in this world? Oh, great logical one, what is the basis for your belief? You have a blind faith in this world. You say believing in God is blind faith. It's not blind faith at all. Thousands and millions of souls have attained God and proclaimed that God exists. You can also follow the path and attain Him. That's intelligent faith, not blind faith. But believing in something that there's absolutely no proof of and apparently no hope of ever proving, that's total blind faith. So believing that there's happiness in this world and I will get it. We can say, okay, there's some amount of happiness. For now, we'll go into that discussion later. Even if someone wants to say, no, there is happiness in the world, I enjoy it every day. Okay, for now, let's accept that. But is there enough happiness in the world? Do you ever feel satisfied? No, I haven't felt satisfied yet. Then what is the basis of your belief that you will get that satisfaction by re-enjoying the same things? That's the other thing. Doing the same exact thing and expecting a different result. Is that scientific? I enjoyed this thing. It gave me some happiness, but not full happiness. So you're going to again enjoy the same thing and expect what? Full happiness? This is what we keep doing. We keep enjoying the world, thinking that maybe this time it will give me the happiness I'm seeking, even though the last time I enjoyed this very same thing, it didn't give me that happiness. How unscientific. But we don't examine our thinking in that way. When it comes to our search for real happiness, we don't approach it in a logical way. We're just blindly, like someone in total darkness, just groping for something, trying to find it. He has no idea where it is. He hopes he might bump into it. That's how we pursue our search for happiness. We haven't planned it out properly. I mean, we plan out certain ventures in this world, business ventures, education, things like that. But have we actually planned out and logically thought about our search for happiness? No. Just blindly running. You can say running because everybody else is running. My mom was running, my dad was running, all my brothers and sisters were running, my neighbors were running, all my friends are running, so I'm running too. Where are you going? I don't know the destination. I just figure if I keep running, I'll get there. I mean, all these people can't all be wrong, can they? They must know where they're going. So I'm just going as well because I figure we're all going, so we'll get there. No, nobody knows where they're going. Just running fast. That's it. No idea of the destination. So this is where we need help when we're all in this same boat, that we don't know even the definition of true happiness. We just know it's a feeling. We get some happiness, and that we don't have enough of it. We feel some kind of lack inside, and we're seeking that. That's all we know. If someone asked us to define, what is it you are seeking? I don't know. Nobody knows. Such a basic thing we can't even define without the help of those who have actually attained that thing. So again, we need Shabda Praman. We need the help, the words of those experts who have attained that thing. We need the help of the Vedas, who reveal such facts and tell us that the thing you are seeking does exist. This is also a logical thing. It must exist. Otherwise, where is the desire coming from, and why do we all have the same desire? So Ved says the thing that you desire, it is called happiness, Anand in Sanskrit. And this Anand that you're desiring, the only thing that could make you happy forever is if you get it in unlimited amount. That's a statement. Yo vai bhuma tat sukham. Ved says it must be unlimited. Only then it would satisfy you. And of course, it has to last forever. We don't want the kind of happiness that's here 1 minute and gone the next. So this would be perfect happiness. If it lasted forever and always was of an unlimited amount. And the third thing, it went on increasing every moment. It never got old, never waned. It only went on multiplying. This is perfect happiness, and this is what you're looking for. See, we couldn't even define that much on our own. And then the second thing, where is such happiness? We wouldn't know that on our own either. They also have to tell us that is in God. You know it's not in the world. That much any logical person can accept. If it's, you think about it, we've been trying to enjoy this world for this whole life. 5 years, 15 years, 20 years, 40 years, 80 years. And we haven't found that happiness yet in this world. So isn't that a long enough experiment? When you add our experience to everybody else's experience, we know, and if we all got together and honestly shared our experiences, did you find such happiness in this world? No. Did you find such happiness in this world? No. We polled everybody in the whole world. If you put all of us together, we must have all tried everything. Nothing left out that we haven't tried, and we still haven't found that happiness in this world. Then a scientifically minded person would say, then it doesn't exist in this world. How could it? But it has to exist. Otherwise, how could we have desired for it? Every one of us has the same desire for that perfect happiness. So if it didn't exist, How could all of us have just dreamed up this odd desire for perfect happiness? If we were the physical body, then definitely we would have been able to find satisfying happiness in this world. Definitely. But the fact that we have not found satisfying happiness in this world proves that we are not the physical body, because the physical body is related to this world. So it means we're more than the physical body. We're the soul. We discussed that. The origin of our desire for happiness is the soul. And the soul is related to God. That's how we have that inclination and that instinct to seek perfect happiness, because of that relation with God. So if such happiness is not in the world, it must be in God. It's logical, because it has to exist somewhere. Otherwise, how could we have thought to desire for it? If I tell you, close your eyes and imagine a color you've never seen, no one can do it, because we experience first, then we form such images. If I tell you, try to imagine a sixth way of experiencing the world. You have 5 senses. You can see, you can touch, you can smell, you can taste, you can hear. Can you imagine a sixth way of experiencing the world? You can try for millions of years and you'll fail. Because you can't imagine something like that that doesn't exist. First you perceive it, then you can imagine something like that. So we perceive something related to God. Due to our connection with God, there's some inclination or instinct that there is such perfect happiness and I want it. So this is our nature. It's our inner nature. My point in all of this is happiness is in God. And if someone denies the existence of God, or says even if God does exist, I don't need him, all I need is material progress, then the question comes, when will you find that happiness that you desire? If you logically examine your situation, you have to accept that such happiness doesn't exist in this world. Even if you don't accept the existence of God, you have to accept that through your own experience, you know perfect happiness doesn't exist in the world. So where will you find that happiness? Number 1. Number 2, you have no security if your hope is tied only to the outer world. This is this philosophy of materialism, that everything, the only thing that matters is enjoying this world. Material progress, getting more things, getting more enjoyment. Then where will you find security? Sanche sarve chayanta nichaya patananta pathananta samuchraya sanyoga viprayoganta marnantancha jivanam. It's the nature of the world that everything in this world is temporary. Every enjoyment fades, wilts, and disappears, just like a flower. Is there such a thing as a flower that exists forever? No. It forms the bud, then it blooms into the flower, and as soon as it reaches the full bloom, it immediately starts fading. The bloom starts to fade. Imagine You're watching the bud open and you're waiting. Oh, it's beautiful now, but when it reaches the full bloom, that's when it's the most beautiful. Most beauty, most fragrance. And as soon as it reaches full bloom, even though your eyes might not be able to pick it out, as soon as the flower reaches full bloom, it begins to wilt. Like the moon. It goes from new moon and it starts building to a full moon. The second it hits that state of being full, it starts waning. Everything in this world is like this. Life and death, day and night, meeting and separation. You can never be with someone forever. Everything that you can enjoy in this world, it's only a temporary thing. Everything that lives must die. So, in such a world where there's such an unstable existence of everything, and in fact anything could be destroyed at any moment, nothing can be enjoyed forever, how will you find security? Everyone wants security, to feel like they're safe. The things that matter to them will last. That's security, right? But there's no such guarantee for anything in this world. When you buy insurance, it's only to replace the thing, right? Or repair the thing. It doesn't guarantee the thing will continue to exist in its desired state. When you buy insurance for your car, it doesn't mean your car will remain undamaged. Who would be foolish enough to give such a guarantee? They're only saying if it gets damaged, we'll pay to fix it. If you buy insurance for your house or a building, it doesn't mean nothing will ever happen to it. It just means if something does, if it burns down, then we'll rebuild it. You buy life insurance. But what is life insurance really? It pays out when you die. I don't know, how do they make money off of that? At least if you're selling car insurance, right? Someone's car will get damaged and you'll have to pay for that. Someone else who's paying your insurance premiums, their car won't get damaged. So that's, it balances out. Everybody dies. First of all, I don't know why it's called life insurance. It should be called death insurance, because it pays out when you die, and that's why you're getting it, right? You're not guaranteeing your life of anything. And when everybody's going to die, it means you're going to pay out on every single person. Anyway, that's why I'm not in business. I'm sure it works out somehow. But what I'm saying is that when this world is so unstable, everything in the world is temporary, and we're looking for stability, financial stability. No such thing. A billionaire can become a beggar. A beggar can become a billionaire. So there's no stability in material things. Anything could be destroyed at any time. Yet we have a desire for stability. That stability only comes when you're receiving grace of God in your heart and you feel the happiness associated with that, which is not related to the ups and downs of the world. Something great may happen to you. It has no concern with your surrender to God and the devotional happiness that you experience because of that. Something terrible in this world may happen to you. It has no concern with your surrender to God and the devotional happiness that you experience because of that. So if you want stability, it has to be internal stability, not external stability. And that internal stability only comes through surrender to God, through bhakti. So you see that if someone thinks that I don't need God, then it means they truly, logically, cannot find perfect happiness and cannot find inner stability in their life. And even though science is so amazing, science has yet to find a way to control what's going on in here. To some extent, science has been able to control the outer world. Not much, but to some extent, meaning we can create a space where we can control the climate, make it hotter, make it colder, dehumidify it, make it more light, less light, make the fans go if we want some wind. So if we, in this little closed-in environment, we can control the climate to some extent. A little bit. Can't control things out there in the world. Can't control tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes. But to some extent, science has gained some control over the outer world, but has no control over this inner world. So, how do you get control over the inner world? What is that inner world right now? Our inner world is the world of our desires, attachments, love and hate, anger, greed, all of these different emotions. And when we say we want to control our mind, it means we want to control these things. See, right now, none of us is in control of our mind. It's amazing to think of. We think of ourselves sometimes in the world, I'm powerful. Let's say a person is wealthy and influential. They can contact any senator and say, oh, senator, I need this thing, and the senator feels inclined to do what he wants because he has power and influence. Yet, that powerful, influential person cannot even control his own mind. If his mind says, I want chocolate cake, and it's midnight, then he has to, he's, okay, let's go get chocolate cake. Such a powerful person, and his mind is treating him like a slave. Instead of sleeping, go and get some chocolate cake. I want to taste something tasty. Okay, goes and gets chocolate cake. So even that powerful person who makes other people do what they want, his own mind is treating him like a slave. Whatever his mind desires, he has to do. We're not in control of our mind. Such a basic thing when you think about it. Such an important thing, and it's totally out of control. How do you get control over your mind? How do you get control over anger, greed, hatred, all these negativities of the mind? No scientific process. Politicians can give lots of speeches. Let's all get along. Let's all be good to each other. Why do we not get along? Why are we not good to each other? Because our mind is impure, and because of the impurity of that mind, we do wrong things. So how do you purify your mind? Is there any soap that's been invented that can do that? Any scientific process to cleanse your mind? No such thing. Again, there's only one way. Bhakti. Even Shankaracharya says that without devotion to the lotus feet of Shri Krishna, there is no possibility of purifying the mind. Shuddhayati hinantaratma Krishna padam bhoja bhakti mrite. Prabodh Sudhakar. The whole basis of human behavior is the relative purity or impurity of the mind. More purity, better behavior. More impurity, worse behavior. All these the negative qualities like anger and hatred, they come out due to the impurity of the mind. So again, if someone thinks, I don't need anything from God, nothing related to God, let me just enjoy the world. But he still wants the world to be a good place, right? And he wants to improve himself. How will he do it without devotion to God? He can't. He can't reduce the negativities of the mind, and he remains a slave to his own mind. Unless he were to do devotion to God, purify his mind, then he would get control over his mind. So this is why no matter how far science progresses and what new amazing things are invented, how do we know we'll make the proper use of such technology? Science can continue to progress and invent all kinds of amazing things which bring us comfort and entertainment in this world, but what's to stop a person from using the same technology to do wrong things? Again, it depends on the purity or impurity of the mind. So science can create new amazing things, yet the proper use or the misuse is only going to depend on the purity or impurity of a person's mind, and science has no control over that. That's determined by a person's devotion to God. So again, you see this philosophy of materialism, Bhautikvad, is totally incomplete and powerless to even provide a good living environment in this world. Even if you give everybody in this world everything they need physically, more food than they need, a nicer house than they need, education, healthcare, give everybody everything they need, will the world be a good place to live in? No, it may be physically comfortable. It doesn't mean it's going to be a good place to live in, because people's hearts remain the same. People will still abuse each other, hate each other. It has nothing to do with more or less physical comfort. So this Bhautikvad in its extreme sense, where it denies any need of devotion to God, it can't give even a nice environment to live in this world, let alone perfect happiness. You all know now that even if we give everyone everything they need in this world, still nobody has attained real satisfaction. So we understand that we definitely need God in our life. But we still have to look at the other side of this argument, which is the Adhyatmavadi, the one who believes in God and wants to attain God, who says, I don't need anything from this world. We don't need science. We don't need material progress. I'm not having anything to do with the world. I only need my devotion to God. So we have to see, is this a logical way to approach things? And if not, then is there some kind of reconciled theory which can be practically applied in our life? We'll talk about that tomorrow night. Boliye Alabeli Sarkar ki Jai.